Like, what if I'm doing everything wrong? And in the end, in 30 years, I still won't get that even after working this hard.
I mean, some of this stuff is like soul stuff, you know?
Hmm.
Speaking of, soul sex with the sexuals, it's like soul living. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like, what's my, it's like creating the temple, right?
Yeah.
It's me and my world.
And so it's this kind of awful cycle of like, do I want to spend the energy? Do I not want to spend the energy? And then you're spending energy thinking about spending energy.
The big hormone enneagram.
Let me lay it on the line. I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres over the filing 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with a 1, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review. Welcome to Big Hormone Enneagram. It's just me and David today, your self-pres lovelies. We're going to be talking about self-pres hell, and it's going to be really just a blast and a party, isn't it?
Yeah, some kind of carnival of hell.
Yeah, because we've talked a lot about how hellish being a sexual type is, but we want to give self-pres its due because it also can be awful.
Yeah, self-pres is the most common dominant instinct. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big part of why the world, you know, is the way that it is in terms of, the economy goes down and everybody panics or there's some kind of threat to survival and
Everyone panics.
everyone panics. I mean, people that are not self-pres are going to panic too, but it's like self-presers are looking ahead to the possibility of a financial downturn or the possibility of the oncoming, you know, natural disaster or that kind of thing. And I mean, it's one reason why you've got good people doing good work around climate change or whatever, probably. So
You would hope.
we would hope, and
It
other
does
things.
make the world go round. And a lot of us are self-present. A lot of us probably experience this stuff. So it's only fair to give it its due. So you're welcome to all you people because I'm going to be talking about shit that's super sensitive to me. And I'm only doing it for you.
Hmm. With the six fix, there's a certain kind of extra piece of insecurity or it manifests in a certain way that's uh, more, I don't know, what would you say, confused and anxious or something.
Yeah. And inability to ever fix it ever.
Right.
Because it's just always going to find a way to be
Hmm.
nervous about something.
Hmm.
It's never going to be perfect.
Right.
Honestly, perfection always kind of seems a little ridiculous to me because it seems kind of boring. Like if you're not worrying about something, what are you doing?
Well, that's the kind of thing a 3 would say. You got to be doing all the time.
Exactly. That's why heaven never worked for me. Like everybody would scare me into like, being a Christian, being like, "Oh, well, you're going to go to hell." And I'm like, heaven doesn't sound very fun.
Mhm, yeah.
Doesn't sound
Just
very appealing to me. So,
floating on a cloud and just being.
that sounds awful.
It's not your thing, huh?
No. No. Sounds like a terrible thing to do actually.
Hmm.
Sounds like what nines do all day.
Looks like what we're doing, yeah, from the outside. But yeah, like on Six Fix, my friend that I'm always mentioning on the podcast, Pat, who's music partner, he's sexual self-pres, so he's not even self-pres dom, but he's got a secondary Six Fix, and he's, you know, a significant worrier about self-pres stuff. as compared to myself, who's self-pres dom, but I have a 7 fix, and I do a fair amount of risk taking and
Hmm.
kind of gambling in money situations and things like that. Anyway, it's a finer point on self-pres, but
Yeah, it doesn't quite make sense to me. Self-pres can look very different based on your fixes.
well, and the other thing with self-pres, and it's the true with all the instincts, is when you're significantly getting the stuff of that dominant instinct in a given time frame, it looks different. For example, with self-pres, when you've got it pretty well covered and you're actually beyond covered and you've got extra, then it can be goes into comfort, right? Or sometimes it's comfort when you're in the hell of it too, right? Because
Hmm.
that's the solution. It's sort of changing your circumstance, or just for the moment, just my immediate environment is going to sort of come out of the hell.
Are you saying like when I don't fully understand what you're saying there?
Yeah. So I'm saying I just intertwined too many things at the same time.
Well,
If you're self-pres dom and you've got more than your bills covered, you've got extra money, say like plenty of extra money, then you can go into the other side of self-pres around money, which is spending it and enjoying it uh, and getting things and sensual experience and decorating your environment, making sure you're in the lifestyle that you want, all of that stuff
mhm.
that's around self-pres.
So
But
it kind
then,
of feeds into it a little bit.
yeah, it's still, so you're still, point being that you're, even when you're not in that worried hellishness of self-pres, you're still doing self-pres.
Right.
You're, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the hell of it and things are, and you're anxious about survival in some way, sometimes you even go into comforting yourself as a way to self-soothe.
Hmm. And sometimes that gets you into further trouble.
Yeah. But sometimes it's just very basic, right? Sometimes it's
Hmm.
just my cup of tea and my blankets and my pillows.
Which
That
I
kind
get. I totally do that.
of yeah.
Candles. I love me some candles and anything lavender. 'Cause I'm a
So
basic bitch.
that is pretty fucking basic. Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Sorry to
Um,
disappoint.
well, 7 and 4 fixes, that's just like, wow.
It's easy to disappoint.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So that again is self-prezi in that, like, you just created a whole world, right? Self-pres
Hmm.
is so much about the setting and the space that you're in. And so, like, you did candles, and what else did you do there?
Lavender.
Lavender. So the smell, you know what I mean? You're
Hmm.
like sort of filling the atmosphere. And it's a you know, self, what would you say? I don't know, focused.
Soothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say a lot of my self-soothing is around smells. Like there's a certain detergent that my parents used when I was a kid that
Hmm.
I'll like crave that smell,
Yeah.
which goes
Oh,
back to like the home thing.
the home thing. That's it. And smell is apparently the most I don't know what it is, impactful
Hmm.
memory recalling
Yes.
sensation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It
that's
can call
interesting.
back memories very easily.
Right. What about like money fear and that kind of stuff? Because that was, and job fear, and which is related to money.
I think a big part of it was that when you have to make a certain, like, not just to pay your bills, right? Because I have more money than I need. I make more money than I need. But when you have to make a certain amount of money, it keeps you from living the way that you kind of, or at least for me, that I kind of want to live. And there's a lot of things that I don't get to do and that feel like they're big parts of me that I just have to kind of put away to be a capitalist cog in the machine.
So that's, yeah, that's actually a big part of self-pres is quality of life. What's my lifestyle? What am I doing every day? Do I like it? And what am I building towards in terms of quality of life? You know what I mean? Like that's what a lot of self-pressers are doing, all of this work and getting things done so that they can eventually get to this certain quality of life where their environment and everything around them is more pleasing. Again, it's kind of like me and my world, me and my setting.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think, I think about that constantly. Like it's a
Yep.
constant thought of like, I'm doing this and therefore I'm choosing to not do this, which I would prefer to do, but it doesn't lead me to the end goal of getting security so that I can eventually do it without worrying. Because it's no fun if you do it when you're worrying.
Yeah.
It becomes unfun.
Yeah.
So like for me, like I really want to live on a farm and run away and like live among animals and just live a cottage core bisexual life of like, having like an actual cottage with like chickens and cows and goats. Like, like that's what I really want.
Mhm.
Like I just watched, I'm on cottage core lesbian TikTok.
Oh my
It's
God.
a great thing. It's a great thing.
You have no idea the reactions that are happening over here, but keep going.
What is happening?
Well, just cottage core and all that stuff. And
It's
farm
wonderful.
animals. Oh my God.
What is happening? I don't understand why you don't also love this.
Well, I mean, it's not totally unappealing, but my 974 SPSX, it's like, where's the interesting, dark, exotic, juiciness? It's like it's so wholesome.
Oh, I know it
And
is.
yeah, it's just like, wow. What am I? Yeah, I'd like it for a few minutes, but it'd be like, man, I need to, where's the problem here or something,
Yeah, I don't
But
experience that.
anyway, you keep going with your
Cottage
cottage
core
core.
lesbian.
Yes. I
uh,
mean, if there's lesbian, you know, uh, if we get to
sex.
see yeah, I mean, then
Yeah. Well, that's the
I could stick around a little
yeah,
longer.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
but it's an aesthetic. Like it's people who are listening who have seen cottage core lesbian TikTok know what I mean when I say it's an aesthetic. Right before I had this call, a video came up on my TikTok that was like this girl who like has this green chunky sweater on and like this like linen skirt and she's like going out to feed the chickens. She's like, "Oh, I want fresh squeezed orange juice." And she like lives in the hills of France. And so she went and picked some oranges and squeezed orange juice and sat on her front porch and drank orange juice. And I was like, that's the fucking dream right there. Like, that is the dream.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, yeah, I guess the only way I can integrate with that is to have some of those people nearby delivering me those things.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah.
you're bougier about it.
Oh, I'm super bouge. I mean,
Yeah, that's not surprising.
oh yeah. I mean, that kind of environment is I just couldn't yeah, it would be too irritating to me. I'd be frustrated.
Okay. But I'll take the general need that I have for that, right? Because you have a need for something on your own
Yeah.
self-pres sexual and that's dark and lonesome and dreary. And all sexual and it's great. But like I see
And
that
it's 4 fixed and
and
7.
it's 4 fixed and 7 and
Yeah, so it's got to
yeah,
be strange, odd, dark, exciting,
obnoxious.
obnoxious, you know, yeah, all of that.
Yeah. So but there's like that need I have for that kind of what I consider like the ideal. And when I don't get to even experience a smidge of it, like I don't even get to go hiking because I haven't gone hiking in a while, or I don't even like get to go ride horses, like, I don't get to have even a part of that. It feels like I'm missing out on the part of me that is worth living, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, some of this stuff is like soul stuff,
Mhm.
Speaking of, soul sex with the sexuals, it's like soul living. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, what's my, it's sort of like, even if it's my weird 7-4 SPSX thing, it's like creating the temple, right?
Yeah.
It's me and my world. And that's sort of what you're doing there with your lesbian cottage core.
And I think a big portion of like my, I don't know, inability to make decisions and my depression around current life and all that kind of stuff comes from like me wondering if the choices I'm making are actually bringing me closer to that lifestyle that I want, or if I'm just not pursuing it in the way that I should. Like, what if I'm doing everything wrong and in the end, in 30 years, still won't get that even after working this hard?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of like anger towards humanity comes in because it's like, you know, there's a lot of like climate doom going on, which if you listen to scientists, we still have time, cool, whatever. But, when you listen to the climate doom, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like, we won't have that in 20 years. And that's like really angering to me because that's all I want. And so you're going to force me to live this life to get there, to live this life of capitalism, to get past capitalism so that I can be comfortable and healthy and safe.
So partly you're one way to frame what you're saying is 3 with a 4 wing, right? I'm gonna have to do all this stuff. And then the 4 is, but I'm gonna be frustrated at the end because once I get to the goal, it's not even gonna be there. It's not even gonna be available.
Right.
Yeah.
And typically nothing I experience is quite what I want it to be.
Hmm.
So it's like I crave this end result but I will never experience it. And there's that like I know that. Like I know that part of my life I'm just is going to be me never experiencing quite what I want to experience.
Yeah, it's interesting, the split between 3 with a 2 versus 3 with a 4, because 3 with a 4, because of what we just said, it's kind of more, what would you say, like object and accomplishment oriented,
Mhm.
it's as opposed to people oriented and relationship oriented.
Mhm.
And it's partly that thing of the 4 wing being dissatisfied with the work or whatever, with where you got to from all the work you've been doing or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing is, you mentioned horseback riding and stuff. That made me think about self pres and body stuff and me and my body and, what I'm doing, walking,
Riding a bike.
exercise. Yeah. Just all of those things around. And then that gets into food and health and all of that stuff. I mean, some of it's what you said of, you know, if you're not getting to do the versions of those kind of body oriented things that you would like to, then that's hellish.
Yeah, and if I have to choose other things over it because of money, it gets really frustrating because those are my two like self-pres things. Right? So it's like,
Mhm.
do I want the money or do I want to move my body?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can get kind of complicated there. But I also like pushing my body to physical limits.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like it helps me get back to things. I don't know, like to
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Like there's a sort of bad conception of self-pres, that it's fear around stuff like pushing your body or doing extreme things with your body. And it's actually, that actually is self-pres, is the pushing your body to extremes. I mean, not that it couldn't, that, some self-pres middles or lasts wouldn't do that either, but it's more common with self-pres first because you're wanting to be prepared, you're looking ahead, you're wanting your body to be in a certain condition or to be able to withstand certain things. I mean, talked about it before. Like I do these 4 hour, 5 hour bike rides. I mean, if 10 years ago it was 6 hours, right? And I'm going out in Texas in the middle of the heat
Yeah,
when
you don't
it's
stop even in the summer, like to
it,
clarify for those listening.
yeah, it's 100 degrees, and I want that. It's like
hmm
I want that challenge, and I want to know that I can, hit the sun, and I'm still gonna win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do these, hikes in the mountains, and I don't like hiking in the summer, but there's a way that I can lean into it of going, like, I'll put on my so there okay, this is very self-pres.
Here we go.
So I have these pants that fit perfectly. And they keep all the bugs off of me, but they're long pants. So if you've ever gone hiking in the woods in the Appalachians, you know that you need long pants because of ticks.
Mhm.
So like, I'll be in long sleeve shirts, long sleeve pants, and I'll be like hot and I'm just leaning into it like let's fucking go. And once you get to the top, I don't know how to describe it. Once you get to the top, it's just this like release of like I did it. I didn't die. Like I was prepared. I
Yep.
have like my emergency kit. I have enough water. I can pack in the water, pack out the water like. And some of my favorite parts of when I was traveling out west was putting my tent up every day and taking it down because it feels very like I can take care of myself. I have a house. I can put it up
Yep.
every day. I can take it down every night or whatever. And like it's very self-sustaining.
I have the resources in my back pocket, essentially.
Yes. Like I
Right.
love if I go hiking, I am prepared for all things
Right.
because it feels good. Not because I'm afraid of it, but because it feels good to be like, if something happens, I've got this. And it's because I was smart enough to think about it. I
Yep.
outsmarted nature.
Yeah. Like all of that camping gear and pants and shirts with all the fucking pockets and all that shit. That's self-pres because then you're carrying all your little tools, all your little gadgets for every little thing that might come up. And you've got the little tool that tightens this thing and loosens that thing or whatever,
And see,
on
ideally, you have one tool that does it all so that your pack can be as light as physically possible.
right. So then you're conserving, right. So it just
You're
keeps
conserving
going
energy.
every angle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep going into it, and it just feels so good, but because it feels like you're in control.
Yeah. I've likened self-pres to when you're self-pres dominant, it's like you're in a car and you're looking just at the dashboard and not out the windshield in a way. I mean, this is like the extreme, right?
Sure.
So, and on the dashboard is a gauge for your money. There's a gauge for your energy level right now. Uh, there's a gauge for time. You know what I mean? There's a gauge for how many resources do I have relative to whatever situation I'm in. And it's like your head is down there in the dashboard, overly monitoring all those gauges and
Yeah.
how much fuel in each of those am I going to spend
In each
in
scenario.
each scenario and along each of those categories: time,
And
money, energy, etc.
yeah, and that's a good point because um that brings me to thinking about energy for a self-pres. which is the main, I think that's one of my biggest struggles because I currently work 40 hours, right? Well, I was working 40 hours. And I am in school. So most of my energy goes into those two things, which are required for safety, security, future. So they take priority. So what's frustrating is all of my energy is put into these capitalist bullshit lies that I have to play into, or else in my mind, I will fucking die. And I don't get to do the things like hiking or going on trips with you guys or really enjoying hanging out with my friends because I'm tired or
Yeah.
playing with my dog or like or things like that. And that's
Yeah.
really like it's a terrible place to just exist for a self-pres, to not have enough energy. And I think a lot of self-pres people experience that burnout.
For sure. And it's partly, again, like you're alluding to, you're tracking it so much. Your attention keeps going back, every, just constantly to how much energy do I have right now and how much do I want to spend right now. And the contrast really comes up when you're in a relationship or a friendship, even with somebody who's sexual dominant or social dominant, and you're the one that says, "Hey, I need to go to sleep now,"
Yeah.
and they like completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly be kind of advocating for yourself in that kind of relationship,
Yep.
which can feel whiny and just lame. And a lot, some energy is also spent just tracking the energy,
Yeah.
And so it's this kind of awful cycle of like, do I want to spend the energy? Do I not want to spend the energy? And then you're spending energy thinking about spending energy.
Yeah. It's all circular, keeps feeding on itself.
Yeah. I think that's that's one of the things that frustrates me too, which a lot of things frustrate me. Just, assume things frustrate me apparently. But like I don't get to go on these trips with you guys right now because I am traveling, because I'm planning on moving. I'm in school, working, all that kind of stuff. And I don't get to spend the money and the time to go hang out with you guys. And it feels like I could if I really pushed myself, but that doesn't ever seem like an option for me.
Yeah. It feels like you're going to be too depleted on some other things, right? If you
Yeah.
did that, you'd be
Yeah.
spending too much on of multiple things besides even just money.
Right. And then I would come back. So I would go to this, hang out with you guys who, like, John and Emeka kind of like, I'm jealous of them sometimes because they get to sort of just be living however they want to live without worrying about this kind of stuff like I do, is what it looks like. I know that's inaccurate, but that's what it looks like. So I get to, like, if I went on these trips, like I would go hang out with them, see their lifestyle, be in their lifestyle, which is kind of what I want. And then I would have to come back and pretend like I'm still okay with this lifestyle that I'm living.
Well, that's a good point, is the contrast. Is
Mhm.
you go experience a whole other world that happens in the zone, and then you go back and it's like, oh wow. It's kind of like can be a life reassessor.
Right. And I can't afford that right now.
Yeah, because just like emotionally,
Yeah,
psychologically.
like, yeah, in my brain, not
Yeah.
financially,
Yeah.
because work and school is already so draining to me emotionally that, like, if I so much as step out of this life, I will not be able to get back in. And I so worry about that because I don't have control over what my self-pres says I can no longer do.
hmm
And if I give it like a second of of seeing how truly awful living, working, and doing school only for the past like year and a half has been, I may never finish my degree,
Right.
to be dramatic about it. Like,
And then your life will be ruined.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Which it might not be, but yeah,
But that's sure what it looks like.
exactly. What I've worked towards for the past year and a half will be ruined.
hmm The job I recently had, I kind of do independent contractor work, and usually you can fly back on the weekends or every other weekend. In this particular job, I had to stay out there for 6 weeks, and I was in a hotel. I mean, speaking of, setting and environment and stuff, I was in a hideous hotel that was, I mean, for most people, it's probably not hideous, but it was, that sort of dull, just generic brick building with sort of colonial columns and all of that kind of stuff, which I mean, it literally makes my stomach churn just looking at that with white columns and red brick. It's actually painful to look at because it's just too fucking organized and not exotic or
It's
interesting,
really ironic because I find that beautiful. But anyway,
Yeah, no, there you go. I mean, we're in other worlds. We've each got our different me and my world pretty
mhm,
significantly.
it's kind of
And that's
cute.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting too, because that would be another self-pres thing would be that it is like signature, right?
Mhm,
Like you're going to have your style around it.
mhm.
I mean, your style is super basic bitch, but I mean, it's
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean it is. I mean, I'm a 3. What are you gonna do? I'm a triple attachment 3. Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
be basic to the max.
yeah, hardcore. I mean, the home thing that's part of that whole lifestyle and the world I'm creating for myself, and what am I building toward, and
Well, there's also
that's
this kind of sense of uh, uh, um, like a home that you'll like. I want to go back home. Like, there's something like that
yes,
for self-pres.
that's true. Like that's one part of me that's basic bitch, I guess, the one thing maybe. But yeah, that sense, it's not particularly familial for me per se, but it probably, maybe at some underlying level it is. But yeah, there's that feeling of, oh man, I just need to get back home. You know what I mean? It's like it's in your body. You know what I mean? And your
Mhm.
body's saying, does this longing thing to just get back home. And it's like, oh, I can finally just breathe because I'm in
Right.
my space.
Yeah. Mine, I experience a lot of there's no home to go back to,
Mm,
right? Because mine is like when I was a kid home, and
okay.
that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean that gets into some of the attachment type stuff, and the word I was using in those early calls with Courtney, nostalgia,
Mhm.
which I think is a pretty big piece with attachment types, especially. It's like a calling back to that, to some time frame that's somewhat idealized, even if the situation wasn't ideal.
Mhm. There is a sense of constantly searching for that home that I can never get back because I am no longer a child. Like, you physically can't go back home.
Hmm.
Um and so there's kind of this displacement that's always like a little melancholy of things will never be that. And
So
that wasn't even that. And I know that.
sure.
So there's just this almost I'm not supposed to be here kind of thing, but not quite, or like I missed something because nothing was ever quite home.
Well, and it's one reason that attachment types are doing attaching out there in the world with people is, it's some kind of a grasping for some sense of commonality or something like that that feels like home to some degree. I mean, this is totally unconscious, right? It's not
Right.
like but that's part of the adapting. It's like maybe this person or this group or this situation could be a home.
Hmm. And I guess it could lend itself to a lot of people kind of getting a little Stockholmy about things,
Yes.
because, like, if their home as a child that they idealized was traumatic, right, that would
Yep.
lead them to idealize being in traumatic situations all the time, and therefore sticking in them because it's familiar and home.
Yep. And then it's plugging into self-pres, and it's bringing in the money, and I'm getting a little bit of comforts here and there and a little
Hmm.
bit of perks,
Hmm.
enough to give me some reprieve from the hell of being, having the ogre boss, hovering over me, who's an
Yeah.
asshole. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many self-pres social sixes and nines out there that are the workers of the world, that are doing all of these kinds of jobs where, um, well, they're just ultimately, I can't imagine them being soul satisfying jobs. It's sort of
No.
like they're lining up to be conveyor belt into slaughter or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
Capitalist shit again.
yeah. I think my boss was one of them. He's like the sweetest man alive, but
Mm,
works 6 days a week
yeah.
as a title processor. I mean, like doing shit that
Ugh,
yeah,
Jesus.
exactly. And I think my dad did a lot of that too as a self-bred 6.
Yeah.
He and I think that's where a lot of my fear comes from, and my
Hmm.
ability to kind of see, or my highly questioning of, like, is this what I want? Is this what I want? Is this what I want? Like, paranoia, because I saw him work for 40 years in
Hmm.
one job, and he was never home, and he never, like, saw any of us grow up. He never got to hang out with any of us until he retired, and it's like, or until he was close to retirement. And it's like, and he talks about how it's like the saddest shit ever, dude. He talks about how he wanted to be a park ranger in Colorado, in the Colorado Rockies, and he didn't. And it's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
There it is right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Like, I don't want that.
no, that's similar to your story. You'd rather be hiking, you'd rather be outside, et cetera, et cetera. And yet you're inside in this office kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's awful. Capitalism fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of TikToks recently that people are like, I've been going to therapy for 7 years and it didn't fix anything because the problem is capitalism.
Yeah.
And that's where the depression sets in, where you're just like, this is going to be my life. Like my mom, she reframes shit all the time. She's like, oh, well, like, if you look at what energy workers are saying right now, like, we're on an uptick, we're awakening, like, we're doing all these things and we're going to get to this amazing point. And I'm like, but it's not in my lifetime. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen in my lifetime. Like, I'm still going to have to live this hellhole. I have absolutely no idea how it's going to right itself. And
Nope.
that's where, like, a lot of anger comes up. Like, a lot of anger comes up for
Well,
me, because I just spend so much time, like, hating what has happened and the choices people have made that have brought us to here. And then to hear my mom try and reframe things, it's like, but your generation is part of the problem. You can't tell me it's going to right itself when you were the problem. You caused this and you will die before you see the repercussions of it.
well, to me, what's particularly disconcerting is that I do associate it with the instincts. And anybody of any stacking you know, can have that whole black and white kind of thinking.
Hmm.
And I think it comes from that kind of combination of social and self-pres, where it's like my daily life and my lifestyle infused with my ideology, beliefs, political views needs to be solid, right? Which is like
Mhm.
self-pres. It needs to be lasting, sustainable, and so forth. And then those people over there who have the same drives
Mhm.
towards sustainability and excellence of civilization, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
they're stuck and solid in their thing. And what's really daunting about the concept of change, big change, is that it is actually in the instincts, and it is why there has been war forever.
Mhm.
I mean, forever as far as the basics of the major civilizations or whatever. I understand there was a period before where it wasn't like that. I mean,
Right.
but I mean, there's where you're getting at capitalism, right? Because you
Right.
get to the feudal system and all that stuff and owning land, and then there's capitalism, and then you've got to protect your land with arms and so on and so on. So,
Mhm. And if we
but
had just kept hunter gathering.
yeah, so the fact that it's actually in our instincts, and like, you can talk about the 9 personality types, those are unconscious,
Mhm.
right? But the instincts are like fucking, it's the animal, it's like in your blood, it's like,
Yeah, it feels like there's no option.
right,
It just is like you will kill me if
right.
I give in.
Yeah. And my point is, it's like doubly or triply unconscious,
Yeah.
the instincts piece, which is keeping all the systems the same,
Mhm.
and all the fighting and the left, right, and all that stuff going. So, not to sound like your mom, but I mean, it requires a total spiritual revolution would have to
Oh, it
happen.
does. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. It's just
Yeah,
annoying to hear her say that because,
yeah,
yeah, it reframes everything.
yeah. Each of the instincts, of course, you know, the bigger part of what's happening is all this neurotic stuff that we're all doing,
Yeah.
especially with our dominant instinct. But
Yeah.
each instinct has a much higher vibration that's possible for it. You know what I mean? And like with
Yes.
self-pres, it is that thing. We kind of already talked about it here. It is the body as temple of the soul, as opposed to the body just as working machine,
Useful
and
machine, yeah.
yeah, etc. Yeah, and so to get to that place of the body as temple, I mean, it just all comes back to the thing of being and stillness, and coming back into quiet of yourself and real contact with your body, like that
Mhm.
exercise that John's done a few times with us, where
Mhm.
you go into actual relaxation of your body, as opposed to kind of the relaxation that we
Of
often think
just
we're doing.
muscles. Yeah.
Yeah. And you come into contact with a whole other presence of your body that is a kind of state of being, that calms all of that instinctual madness.
Yeah, it feels a bit impossible to reason with other self-pressers on the other side.
Sure.
Because it's such a like the instincts are such a like a
Well,
I don't know if
they're
you
and they're also triggering you to keep up into that keyed up neurotic space,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
look at them, look at the bad stuff they're doing,
Mhm.
right?
And it's like if I give something, they aren't going to give something in return.
Yeah,
And it's like, so how are we going to meet in the middle if neither of us are going to give?
yeah,
It does kind of feel like everything's just going to have to burn to the ground.
yeah. It is, and it could get really ugly,
That's why
which
I'm
is,
fucking moving to Europe.
yeah, just terrifying to self-pressers, because you're
Mhm.
thinking about just the basic functionality, all the basic stuff of regular American life breaking down. Like I can't just go to the store, or I can't get gasoline now to go to the store.
Or I can't even flush my toilet because there's not central plumbing anymore.
Yeah.
If we want to get real dark with it.
Oh yeah, no, electricity's gone, internet is down, neighbors are on fucking walkie-talkies with rifles.
Right. And
Ban-
if for all those people who've experienced like, fires or floods, just how awful people will be to each other.
Yep.
That's why I'm moving, because people in the Netherlands, they have fucking systems for this shit.
Yeah.
They're like, we're beneath sea level, but we have a way of keeping the water. Like, we are prepared for this shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't doubt at all that they are prepared for everything, because it's
Yeah.
like super self-pres.
Yeah. And I mean, anywhere, including here, in the actual thick of a situation, there are plenty of human beings that, as a literal instinctual reflex, will go into a building and pull somebody out or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But that's a different thing than what you're talking about, as far as thinking ahead to prepare for things for everyone, you know.
Mhm. There's been a shift in my mind of like thinking that people are good, to realizing, because there are those people, right? Like I think part of my naivety came from like my brother growing up with him, because he's one of those people. Like he would totally just hop into a burning building for someone. I wouldn't, but but he
Yeah.
would. So then there's this kind of thought that like, oh well, a lot of people are like this, and I don't think a lot of
Well,
people are.
well, for me, I'm not as much thinking of it as an overall statement about the person. To me, it's any person whatsoever could have that reflex.
Mm,
I mean, or a sizable number of, I don't know, percentage of people could have that reflex. I mean, if you see somebody in a window on the second floor or whatever, and the house is on fire, the first floor or whatever, there's plenty of people that would have that reflex to uh, go climb the tree right by the window and whatever, do something to grab them. And it's not necessarily about overall character to me. It's just situational.
yeah, I don't know. I would almost disagree with that.
Yeah.
The ideal
My
is
side is better than your side.
exactly. Well, see, I'm going to morph into assuming that your side is in fact better, um, because that's what I do best. But what the love I have for Europe is the fact that they basically, through their government, force people to be good people.
Mhm.
Like they've designed the government around the well-being of their people, and it's like I like that nobody gets to be a jerk. Basically, there nobody gets to have that. Like people are like, oh, but you'll lose some freedoms, and I'm like, I'm going to lose freedoms to stomp on other people. Those are
And
freedoms
you're
I don't want.
and you're going to lose money, like
Hmm.
like if the tax rate were 50% here,
Hmm.
that would support all kinds of things,
Right.
including university education and all kinds of better public works and things that were not just commerce based, as far as community life and activity, that would enhance everything, and it would enhance the whole psychology of the country and make everybody in a much less depressed and angry place. Uh, and but it's self-pres here in the US, that has you thinking just about that money's not going to be in my pocket.
Right. And this is all what we think about every day.
Yep.
To loop it back to self-pres hell. That's why I have a hard time leveling with you, or Emika and John, you two. This is for you too.
I'm a bad person too.
I don't have as hard a time leveling with you though.
Ah,
I have a hard time leveling with them because, like, yeah, yeah, you're experiencing like, depression, and you feel like you don't like, fit in anywhere, and like you feel like you don't have love and whatever. I'm worrying about the world burning. Like, can you hold it together for 2 seconds, because the world is burning. Like, so it's, like there's this like nothing else matters blinders thing that happens when you get really into self-pres hell. Makes it hard for me to have empathy for others.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's bringing up what would I say? The abstract war between the instincts that is puts them all on equal footing because, like, if you're sexual dom, that whole world of attraction and so forth, that is the world.
And that is also burning for
And
them.
that world can be burning for
Mhm.
them at
Yeah.
any time. And the thing is, they're hyper tracking that.
Right.
And how much is it diminishing and throwing something out there to bring excitement back.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And is she into me still? And checking constantly. So I mean, we're talking about, I like to use the word religion. It just accidentally, your dominant instinct is completely a religion. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, of course, this is the most important thing in the world. How are you not looking at this every fucking second? This
Right.
is, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with social doms. It's the same thing in that sphere for them.
Mm-hmm. I think finding coping mechanisms for when you get to that point is really important to bring empathy back, because I found that once I create empathy for other people in that space, that kind of, oh my God, I'm going to die feeling dissipates at least slightly to where it's not like consuming.
Yeah.
Just at least for me,
I don't know how people could do the empathy in a way kind of without or as thoroughly without actually knowing about the instincts through the Enneagram.
Yeah. I think the only way I've found to like explain it to people who don't know about the Enneagram is just do something, like just do something nice for people. When you get into that
Hmm.
moment, just do something nice.
Hmm.
Because you don't have to know why you're in a hell to know you're in a hell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you don't have to know what hell you're in. You know it though,
Hmm.
typically.
That's good. Yeah, I would not have thought of that.
That's actually shout out to my friend Winona. She taught me that one. She was like, when I get into a really dark place, I do something nice for someone and it kind of just levels it out a little.
Also, though, I was thinking of it in terms of when you're hearing somebody else's story
Yeah.
and they're in the hell
Yes.
and doing something nice for them. Is that you're
That
meaning
that
as
is
well?
also, yeah. That is
Yeah.
also a way to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes having friends who are always a mess can be kind of helpful
Right.
in that sense.
Sure.
Where you can check on them and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna come bring you coffee because you're always a mess,"
Yeah.
you know. And that's why I think I always have one or two of those people in my life.
Yeah, that's a interesting therapy.
It is.
I might have to
It's a dangerous
explore
one
that.
though. You have to make sure you don't get sucked into it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of play the game a little bit.
I'm pretty self-indulgent, so I don't think I would. I
You
mean,
should probably do nice things for other people.
mm,
You can just send me money.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Now
fine.
we're back on that again.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, checks in the mail.
Yeah, perfect. See, that's your nice thing. You can send me and Brian money.
I like money.
Brian says he likes money.
What about if it's earmarked just for you?
Just for me? Sorry, babe, it's just mine.
All right. Well, I'm sick of you.
Okay,
Get the hell
well,
out of here.
cool. Wait, really?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the gauge on the dashboard.
Okay, that's fair.
There's a Nancy gauge.
Yes.
Because Nancy's just as important as money,
Everything.
time.
I am all
energy.
important. All important.
Yeah. And the Nancy gauge is all the way full. So, as opposed to empty being done when it's full, then I don't want any more of you, right? Because
Okay, that's fine then.
yeah,
You gotta drain it a little bit before Sunday.
yeah, that's true. That'll be important. Okay,
Okay.
okay. Get the
Bye.
hell out.
Bye.